Echoes in the storm. The emergency sirens blared through Ganymede Station as Dr. Sarah Chen hurried down the curved corridor of Sector 9, her footsteps echoing against the metal flooring. Another solar flare warning, the third this month. The Jupiter system had been experiencing unprecedented stellar activity, and the station's shields were taxed to their limits. Attention all personnel. Commander Isabel's voice resonated through the communication system. Please proceed to designated shelter areas within 15 minutes. Sarah pressed her palm against the scanner outside her laboratory, waiting impatiently as it read her biometrics. Inside, she quickly gathered her research tablets and the prototype atmospheric stabilizer she'd been working on for the past 8 months. The evacuation order wouldn't last more than a few hours, but she couldn't risk leaving her work unsecured. That's when she heard it, a soft whimper, barely audible above the alarm. Sarah froze, tilting her head to listen. There it was again, coming from the supply closet. "Hello?" she called, approaching cautiously. "Is someone there?" When she opened the door, Sarah found herself staring into 2 enormous silver eyes, gleaming in the dimness. A small child huddled between storage containers, trembling. The child's skin was a soft lavender hue that seemed to pulse slightly with each frightened breath. "Oh, my stars," Sarah whispered, crouching down. "How did you get here?" The child, clearly not human, pressed further into the corner. Sarah estimated she was no more than 3 or 4 years old, with delicate features and hair that seemed to shimmer between purple and midnight blue. "It's okay," Sarah said softly, extending her hand but not moving closer. "I won't hurt you." The station's communication system crackled again. 10 minutes until full lockdown. Making a split-second decision, Sarah reached for the child. "Come with me, little one. We need to get to safety." To her surprise, the child took her hand. The moment their skin touched, Sarah felt a strange tingling sensation travel up her arm, and a fleeting impression brushed against her mind. Fear, confusion, and the image of a beautiful woman with the same lavender skin. Sarah gasped, nearly pulling away. The child was telepathic. Final warning. Commander Isabel announced 5 minutes to lockdown. Sarah made her decision. Gathering the child in her arms, she hurried toward the evacuation shuttle. The little girl clung to her, face buried against Sarah's neck. Dr. Chen Cooper, the security officer at the shuttle entrance, frowned as he spotted the child. "Who is that?" "A stowaway," Sarah replied quickly. "Found her hiding in my lab." Cooper's expression darkened. "We need to report this to Commander Isabel. Unregistered aliens aren't allowed." "After the storm," Sarah interrupted. "This child is terrified, Cooper. She needs medical attention and safety first. Protocol can wait." Cooper hesitated, looking between Sarah and the trembling child. "Please," Sarah added quietly. With a reluctant nod, Cooper stepped aside. "Your responsibility, Dr. Chen." Once seated in the evacuation shuttle, Sarah examined the child more carefully. She wore simple clothing, made of an unfamiliar material that seemed to adjust to her body temperature. Around her wrist was a delicate silver bracelet with symbols Sarah didn't recognize. "What's your name?" Sarah asked gently. The child looked up at her with those luminous silver eyes. Then Sarah felt rather than heard the answer form in her mind. "Aya," the impression came, accompanied by an image of stars. "Aya," Sarah repeated, testing the name. "Don't worry, Aya. I'll keep you safe." As the shuttle rumbled to life, Sarah made another impulsive decision. The Jupiter Academy on the gas giant's largest floating platform would be her best chance to find answers, and possibly someone who might know where this child belonged. The Academy was known for its interspecies education program and diplomatic outreach. If anyone could help her understand who Aya was and where she came from, it would be there. Sarah looked down at the child who had now fallen asleep against her chest, one tiny purple hand clutching Sarah's laboratory coat. "Jupiter Academy it is then," she whispered. The Lilac Child. The Jupiter Academy loomed before them as Sarah's shuttle approached. A magnificent structure of crystalline domes and gravity-defying spires floating serenely in Jupiter's upper atmosphere. Bands of amber and crimson clouds swirled beneath the massive educational complex, occasionally illuminated by lightning storms in the planet's turbulent depths. "First time at the Academy?" asked the pilot, a gruff woman named Arya, who had said little during their journey from Ganymede. "Yes," Sarah replied, keeping her voice low to avoid waking Aya, who still slept against her shoulder. "I've heard it's impressive." That's putting it mildly. Arya guided the shuttle toward a glowing docking bay, only place in the system where 17 different species learn together. A miracle it works at all, if you ask me. Sarah felt Aya stir as the shuttle began its docking sequence. The child's eyes fluttered open, immediately widening with wonder as she caught sight of the academy through the viewport. A small gasp escaped her lips, the first audible sound Sarah had heard her make. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Sarah smiled down at her. Aya nodded, pressing her small purple hand against the glass. Sarah felt a gentle brush against her consciousness, an impression of awe and recognition. Passenger Chen and Minor announced the automated system. "Welcome to Jupiter Academy. Please proceed to reception for processing." Sarah gathered her belongings and Aya, thanking Arya before stepping onto the platform. The gravity was lighter than on Ganymede, carefully calibrated to accommodate various physiologies. "Remember," Sarah whispered to Aya, "stay close to me." The reception area buzzed with activity. Students of various species moved between classes. Teachers hurried with stacks of materials, and administrative staff managed the controlled chaos with practiced efficiency. Sarah approached the central desk, where a human woman with intricate facial augmentations looked up from her display. "Dr. Sarah Chen from Ganymede Research Station." Sarah stated, "I need to speak with someone about—" She hesitated, glancing down at Aya, about identifying an unaccompanied child. The receptionist's augmented eyes narrowed slightly as she noticed Aya's purple skin. "I see. One moment, please." She tapped rapidly on her console. "Professor Kai is our xenoanthropology specialist. He's teaching now but will be available in 30 minutes. Please wait in consultation room 3. The consultation room was clearly designed for comfort across species. Adjustable seating, temperature zones, and a small area with toys and learning tools for younger visitors. Aya immediately gravitated toward a device that projected interactive star maps. "You like the stars?" Sarah asked, crouching beside her. Aya nodded, her fingers tracing constellations. Again, Sarah felt that strange telepathic touch, fragments of memory, a journey through darkness and overwhelming loneliness. Sarah was so absorbed in these impressions that she didn't notice when the door slid open. "Dr. Chen?" She turned to find a tall man regarding them with intense curiosity. He appeared to be in his mid-30s, with features that hinted at mixed heritage, Earth and something else. His eyes were an unusual shade that shifted between blue and violet in the light. "Professor Kai," she stood, extending her hand. "Just Kai is fine," he replied, shaking her hand briefly before his attention focused entirely on Aya. "And who is this?" The change in Aya was immediate and startling. The child abandoned the star map and rushed toward Kai, stopping just before him with her silver eyes wide and searching. Kai crouched to her level, his expression softening. "Hello, little one," he said gently in a language Sarah didn't recognize, yet somehow she understood the meaning. Aya reached out hesitantly, her small purple fingers touching Kai's face. The professor closed his eyes momentarily as though receiving information. "Her name is Aya," Sarah explained. "I found her hiding on Ganymede Station during the evacuation. She seems to communicate telepathically." Kai nodded, still focused on the child. "She's Lilari, a very rare species from the outer reaches of Andromeda. There are perhaps a few thousand left in the galaxy." "You recognize her species just by looking?" Sarah asked, surprised. Kai finally looked up, something unreadable in his expression. "My mother was Lilari." Sarah's breath caught. "So you're—" "Half," he said simply, rising to his feet. "Dr. Chen, where did you say you found her?" "In my laboratory storage room on Ganymede. She was hiding during a solar storm evacuation." Kai's brow furrowed. "That's impossible. The Lilari haven't been seen in this system for over a decade, not since the boundary conflict." "Well, she was there," Sarah insisted, "and now I need to know what to do. I should report her to station authorities, but—" "No." Kai's response was sharp, almost alarmed. "Excuse me, but that would be unwise." "Why?" Kai hesitated, then said, "The Lilari were driven from the system because of fear. Their telepathic abilities made many uncomfortable, and there were incidents." Aya had wandered back to the star map, but Sarah could tell she was listening, understanding more than a child her age should. "She has no identification," Sarah said. "No guardian that I could find." "I can't just—" "She can stay here," Kai interrupted. "We have facilities for refugee children. I can oversee her care until we learn more about how she arrived." Sarah studied him. "You seem very invested in helping her." Something flickered in Kai's unusual eyes. "Wouldn't you be? She's alone, frightened. And possibly the only other half-Lilari in this part of the galaxy. Besides," he added more softly, "she trusts you, and now she seems to trust me." "That's significant." Before Sarah could respond, her communication device chimed urgently. "Dr. Chen." Commander Isabel's voice was tight with controlled anger. "Your presence is required immediately back at Ganymede Station. Security reports indicate you removed an unregistered alien miner without proper authorization." Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. She looked at Aya, then at Kai, torn between duty and the inexplicable protectiveness she felt toward this child. "I need to return to the station," she told Kai, "but I can't just leave her and then don't." Kai said simply, "Stay, at least until we figure this out." Sarah looked at Aya, who was now watching her with those luminous silver eyes, a question forming between them without words. "Will you stay?" Whispers between worlds 3 days had passed since Sarah's decision to remain at Jupiter Academy, and Commander Isabel's messages had grown increasingly threatening. Sarah's temporary quarters overlooked the swirling storms of Jupiter's northern hemisphere, a hypnotic display that seemed to mirror her tumultuous thoughts. "You're risking your career," she muttered to herself, watching as a massive crimson storm system rotated below for what? A child you barely know? A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. When the door slid open, Kai stood there with Aya beside him, the child's small purple hand clasped in his. "We're not disturbing you?" he asked, his unusual eyes searching her face. "Not at all." Sarah stepped back to let them enter. How was her assessment? Kai had spent the morning having Aya evaluated by the Academy's xenobiologists and education specialists. The little girl looked tired but calm, still holding tight to Kai's hand. "Remarkable," Kai said quietly as Aya wandered to the window, pressing her face against the transparent material to watch Jupiter's clouds. "Her telepathic abilities are extraordinarily developed for her age. The specialists believe she's between 3 and 4 standard years, but her cognitive function registers much higher." Sarah joined Aya at the window. "What else did you learn?" "Her genetic profile confirms she's half human, half Lilari." Kai's voice dropped lower. "Sarah, she has no tracking implant, no citizenship markers, nothing. It's as though she doesn't officially exist." "How is that possible? Even refugee children have basic registration." Kai hesitated, then pulled a small data tablet from his pocket, offering it to Sarah. "I found something in the Academy archives. It might explain a few things." Sarah activated the tablet. A classified military report appeared, dated 5 years earlier. It detailed a covert research facility on Callisto, where scientists had been studying Lilari telepathic abilities for potential military applications. The facility had been officially closed following ethical investigations, but rumors persisted that some research had continued underground. "You think she came from there?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "It would explain why she was hiding on Ganymede, why she has no official records." Kai knelt beside Aya, who had begun tracing patterns on the window with her fingertips, "and it might explain why she trusts us." "I don't understand." Kai looked up at Sarah, his expression grave. "What if she wasn't hiding from the storm but from someone on the station? Someone who might have been taking her back to a facility like this?" The thought chilled Sarah. She looked at Aya's delicate profile against the window, at the way her lavender skin seemed to pulse gently with her heartbeat. "There's something else," Kai said. Something I haven't told you." Sarah tensed. "What?" "During our telepathic exchanges, I've seen fragments of her memories. She remembers a woman, a human woman with dark hair like yours, a scientist." He paused. "I think she sought you out specifically, Sarah. I don't think finding her was an accident." Before Sarah could process this revelation, Aya turned from the window. She approached Sarah and reached up, her small purple fingers touching Sarah's temple. Immediately, Sarah was flooded with images. A sterile laboratory, faces behind masks, and a woman who looked remarkably like herself, whispering to a tiny purple infant. "I'll come back for you." "I promise," Sarah gasped, stepping back as the connection broke. Aya looked at her with those silver eyes, expectant and somehow knowing. "What did you see?" Kai asked quietly. A woman who looks like me. Sarah's voice trembled, promising to return for her. But I don't understand. I've never... She stopped suddenly, a memory surfacing. 5 years ago, my sister disappeared during a research expedition to the outer moons. Elizabeth was a geneticist specializing in interspecies compatibility. Everyone assumed her shuttle was lost in an ion storm. Kai's expression changed to one of dawning comprehension. The facility on Callisto would have needed someone with exactly that expertise. Are you suggesting my sister was involved in this research? That somehow Aya is connected to her, Kai finished. Yes, I believe she might be. Sarah sank onto a chair, overwhelmed. Aya approached cautiously and climbed onto her lap, a gesture so natural it made Sarah's heart ache. The child placed her hand against Sarah's cheek, and this time the telepathic impression was gentle, a feeling of recognition, a familiarity of finding something lost. She knows, Sarah whispered somehow. She knows who I am. The Lilari can sense familial connections across great distances, Kai explained. It's part of why they were feared. Few secrets can be kept from them. The room's communication panel chimed, interrupting the moment. The Academy's security chief appeared on screen. Professor Kai. The officer looked concerned. We've received a formal request from Ganymede Security to detain Dr. Chen and an unregistered minor. They're dispatching an enforcement team. Arrival expected within 6 hours. Kai thanked the officer and ended the transmission, turning to Sarah with determination in his eyes. We need to move quickly, he said. I have colleagues in the diplomatic quarter who might help us. There's a Lilari representative visiting from the Andromeda outpost. You want to leave the academy? Sarah asked, surprised. We can't stay here. Kai's gaze fell on Aya. Not if we want to keep her safe and find out what happened to your sister. Sarah looked down at the child in her arms, feeling a responsibility that went beyond professional ethics or even the strange connection they seemed to share. Whatever had happened on Callisto, whatever role her sister might have played, this child had sought her out for protection. My research, she said suddenly, the atmospheric stabilizer I was developing, it could be adapted to mask biological signatures. If we can modify it, we might be able to conceal Aya's telepathic output long enough to reach your contact. Kai's expression brightened. That could work. My quarters have basic lab equipment. As they prepared to leave, Sarah felt Aya's hand slip into hers. Another telepathic impression washed over her. Gratitude, hope, and something else that took Sarah a moment to identify. Trust. We'll figure this out, Sarah promised. Squeezing the small purple hand gently, together Kai watched them. Something shifting in his unusual eyes, a softening, a recognition of the strange bond forming between the three of them. When Sarah met his gaze, she felt an unexpected warmth spread through her chest. Ready? He asked. Sarah nodded, gathering Aya into her arms. Ready? Gravity's pull. The diplomatic quarter buzzed with activity as Sarah, Kai, and Aya slipped through crowded corridors, the modified atmospheric stabilizer masking Aya's unique biosignature. Sarah held the child close, heart pounding with each security scan they passed. Almost there, Kai whispered, guiding them toward a secluded meeting area where his Lilari contact waited. Ambassador Isabel, an elegant purple-skinned woman with silver eyes like Aya's, gasped softly when they entered. A child of our blood, she murmured, approaching slowly. The connection between Aya and the ambassador was immediate, a silent conversation that left tears in the older woman's eyes. She shows me terrible things, Ambassador Isabel said quietly. Experiments, genetic manipulation, attempts to weaponize our gift. Sarah felt cold dread settle in her stomach. My sister, was she part of this? No. The ambassador touched Sarah's hand gently. Your sister tried to free the children. This little one's human DNA comes from Elizabeth Chen, who gave herself to save these children. Sarah staggered back, steadied by Kai's hand on her shoulder. Elizabeth is her mother? Genetically, yes. She created Aya to save the others, knowing the child would seek out her closest blood relative, you. Before they could process this revelation, alarms blared throughout the quarter. Ganymede security had arrived earlier than expected. You must go. The ambassador pressed a small device into Kai's hand. This will grant you passage to our sanctuary moon. Take her there. As security forces approached their location, Kai pulled Sarah and Aya toward a service exit. In the narrow corridor, he turned to Sarah, his eyes intense. "I never planned for any of this," he said, voice low. "But I need you to know." Sarah silenced him with an impulsive kiss, surprising them both. "Tell me later," she whispered, "when we're safe." Aya looked between them, a small smile on her purple face, her mind touching theirs with approval and hope as they fled toward an uncertain future together. Constellation of 3. The sanctuary moon orbited a distant gas giant, hidden from standard navigation charts. 3 months had passed since their escape from Jupiter Academy. 3 months of learning to be a family. Sarah stood on the observation deck of their small dwelling, watching Aya play with other telepathic children in the community garden below. The little girl had flourished here, her abilities growing stronger as she learned to control them. "She's getting better at the language," Kai said, joining Sarah at the window, his hand finding hers naturally now, both spoken and telepathic. Sarah leaned against him, savoring the warmth of connection. "I received a message from Earth. The military facility on Callisto has been exposed. They're investigating everyone involved. Your sister would be proud," Kai murmured against her hair. "Of you, of Aya." A telepathic brush against their minds announced Aya's approach before she burst through the door, rushing into their embrace. Her silver eyes shone with happiness as she connected with them both, sharing images of her day. "Family," she said aloud, one of the few spoken words she'd mastered, her small purple hands reaching for both of them. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes as Kai knelt to embrace the child, then pulled Sarah down into their circle. In this moment, light years from Earth and everything she'd known, Sarah finally understood what her sister had fought for: the right to love across boundaries of species, of worlds, of differences that ultimately meant nothing compared to the bonds they'd formed. "Yes, Aya," Sarah whispered, completing their constellation of 3 family. As Jupiter's storms had once swirled beneath them, now stars turned overhead. Witnessing this unlikely union, a scientist, a professor, and a child who had crossed the void between worlds to find exactly where she belonged.